Hey internet, and welcome back to No Meta, Just Vibes, the MMO show for the filthiest of filthy casuals. And today we're playing World of Warcraft, and no one is more surprised than me. I was not planning on playing Dragonflight at all. Warcraft is one of those games where I'll play it for a couple weeks every once in a while, and then I'll get out. I've never really kind of clicked with the game, you know, aside from playing with friends occasionally or maybe when a new expansion drops. I think the last time I played before this was Legion. But for whatever reason, WoW this time won the game of hyperfixation roulette that goes on in my head constantly, and I've been playing it for a couple months and really enjoying it more than I've ever enjoyed playing World of Warcraft. And one thing I wanted to do, since I have some friends that are playing now, is try some of the content that I've never done before, in this case, Mythic Dungeons. It's basically a challenge mode for the various dungeons in the game. It starts at level 0 and keeps going up, so you can kind of keep doing more and more difficult versions of the dungeon, which will give you better loot, and there's a timer, I think, too, so, you know, getting time limits is like a thing. I don't know much about it, but it's supposed to be pretty fun, and I definitely like the idea of doing dungeon-based content that's more difficult rather than just fighting a boss over and over like I would do in, say, Final Fantasy XIV. Fighting the same boss for like an hour and making incremental progress is torture for me. It's not something I find fun, but I do like some of the harder kind of dungeony content in that game. So I wanted to try Mythic, and my friends were gonna take me through it. This is my first time ever doing a Mythic Dungeon, so keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that I'm not good at the game. I'm not good at MMOs in general, and I don't ever know what I'm doing, but I try to at least do it with style. So we're gonna watch the playthrough, and we'll talk about kind of what went on. Okay, so here we are at the dungeon. Unlike normal dungeons where you can just kind of queue up, you actually have to go to the physical dungeon location. I didn't know that I had to like walk into it. You can see what I'm typing over my head, so that's I maybe would have been more careful about what I said if I'd known that. So yeah, you walk into the dungeon. I didn't know if there was like a thing you're supposed to do to start it, but you walk in. This is the Ruby Life Pools. This is an area where the red Dragonflight, which is responsible for life, they keep watch over the dragon eggs, and they raise little dragons. You can see that there's some dead guys. My team is already in here. So on the party list, Isoel and Shifty are both friends of mine, and we're like in a little guild. I've known them for a few years, and the other people are randos that came into the party to do the Mythic. One cool thing is that Alliance and Horde can do these together, and that's pretty neat. You can kind of fill out your group. So I'm a Shadow Priest. I worship the old gods and the void. So you can see that I'm applying damage over time effects to the enemies, and then I use various psychic attacks to build a meter called Insanity, which lets me use some stronger psychic attacks, and then some of my stuff makes tentacles pop up, some of my stuff makes little star explosions on guys. I can do like a summary of this class if anyone wants. I don't know if that's anything anyone wants to see, but it's pretty interesting. It's pretty fun. In AoE situations like in this dungeon, it's not amazing. It feels... So I have one skill that applies damage over time effects to enemies in a group, and you'll see a circle on the ground sometimes where I'm targeting. It's a very slow moving skill, so it can miss if the enemies move. And it also has a 30-second timer, which means, like every other pull, I have to manually put my dots on all the enemies, which it feels not fun. It feels like kind of a waste of time. So you can see that's the thing. I just did it right there. So here's me moving out of the way of some fire. Just keep in mind that I know how to do that because it might come into play later. So we're just fighting a bunch of normal enemies before the boss. People call them trash most of the time. I think that's kind of dumb. Like, they shouldn't be negligible enough to call them trash. Like, they should at least be a little formidable, but it's just kind of a word people use. So this is the first boss. She uses some ice-based attacks. She spits icicles everywhere. She uses some ice beams. Nothing crazy. I'm just, loading her up with dots and trying to use most of my hard-hitting skills up front so that I can get them on cooldown to use them later, and also, use them while there's less mechanics going on. I have a little squid guy that's doing damage. He's gonna summon these little dragon guys, but there's not really much threat, and we're gonna run down the boss like almost immediately. So that was the first boss, pretty easy. In fact, it was almost too easy. It almost feels like maybe we're not on Mythic difficulty. And in fact, right now, one of our party members realizes that we are on Heroic difficulty instead of Mythic, and we made a mistake. So we're gonna have to get out of the dungeon and then put it on Mythic and then go back in and do it all over. Okay, so now we're actually doing the Mythic Dungeon, and it's only Mythic 0. It's, you know, the lowest difficulty of Mythic, but you can tell there's a little bit of a difference. Enemies hit a little harder, they're a little tougher to kill. It is just enough extra pressure to make it kind of interesting. So yeah, it's fun. We're just going through these. Joel just stood in that fire. He's our healer. He should know better. It's, you know, just going back through the first room. I think is the enemy layout a little different? Maybe the enemies are different. I don't remember. And I'm not gonna look it up now. So you can see the bosses up ahead. There's, you know, a few dragons and a big dragon in this room. Just got a DPS. He went into the hallway, and I was trying to get out of the way of something. So I went into, this is me dodging again. Just keep in mind that I'm doing a lot of dodging here. I ended up in like the corner of the hallway, and you may have noticed that I keep the camera pretty close to my character in general, compared to a lot of people who play this game. I like to see my character. I like to kind of see the spells and stuff that's going on. There's fire under my feet right now, and I definitely completely move out of the way of it. And you can probably ignore this part. You can turn your eyes off to like close your eyes, or, you know, fast forward the video. Nothing interesting is happening here. Just normal dungeon stuff. Nothing notable on screen. We're going into the boss room. I'm going to go into the boss room in a second. So now we're gonna go fight the boss, and everything's gonna be cool. She was a little bit harder. It took a little bit longer, but, you know, nothing too crazy. Just, you know, general boss stuff. We are going to interfere, lady. We're going to interfere all day. She didn't do this ice cyclone thing before. I forget. I've done this dungeon a few times. I forget if I've seen that on the normal mode. Again, I don't know much about how mythics work. I know them mostly by reputation and the fact that it's a cool style of content that I've always thought was neat, but I've never had a chance to do. So we got more dragons again. We're just AoEing everything down. I'm trying not to pay attention, by the way, to my skill. You'll see sometimes that I just like stand still, and that's because I like want to do too many things at once and I don't know what to choose, and my brain gets paralysis very easily. Choice paralysis, not physical paralysis. Anyway, here's us fighting more stuff. So we beat the boss here, just like we did before. It only took a little bit longer. I got some money and cloth scraps from her, so that's cool. And we are going to ride these red dragons up. This time we're actually going to keep going with the dungeon because we are on the correct difficulty level. They go in this spiral, which seems counterproductive, especially like because this is like a dire situation. It feels weird that they just kind of lollygag. Oh yeah, I did get some items. None of it was like stuff I needed, but I can disenchant it later for crafting materials, so it's fine. So now we're going to go to the top of the re-life pool. So this is actually a place that you spend a good amount of time in the story, and that's cool. I always like when you can kind of see a story place in a kind of more dire, under attack setting. I love that kind of stuff. So we're fighting, we're going in a line and just killing all the fire elementals and dragons. These guys do a nasty lightning breath attack, so you don't want to get hit by that. There's lots of little AoE things up here that you want to be careful to avoid, but it's fun. It's got a nice sense of motion and intensity as you're kind of going around in this circle trying to take down whatever is making the boss invulnerable. She has a shield or something on her, and I don't really know how what we're doing takes it down. I tend to want to know what's going on in dungeons in the story, but like I don't remember what in the story led to this happening. Maybe it was like a quest I didn't do or something. I don't know. But yeah, we're just fighting lots of stuff. There's lots of little ads that can be annoying. These guys do a huge AoE, so you want to get them down fast. They're also going to show up in a boss in a minute, so it's kind of teaching you that you want to get rid of those because it's going to ruin your day if the entire party has to keep moving. So here I have an AoE that's around me, and then the boss was also using an AoE. I got a little lost in the sauce there and almost died, but between me shielding myself and Joel, who is one of the best healers in the world, we made it through, and everything was fine. Everything was totally fine, and I made no mistakes either before this or now or after this in the following boss fights. Speaking of which, here is the second boss. She does fire stuff, so she makes fire elementals. She's going to throw a fiery boulder at me in a second. I'm going to masterfully dodge. Look at that juke. I had just enough time to finish casting stuff. So like I said before, these elementals will make big AoEs, which you don't want to be in, so you want to kill them as quick as possible. And they're also going to leave behind a lot of lava, so you want to be careful with where you stand in this. I'm like a little far away from the party, which is not necessarily advisable, but Shadow Priest is not a very mobile class. It is probably one of the most immobile in terms of how much of its stuff needs to be kind of hard casted with cast times or channeled abilities, and here's just throwing out tons of fire. The screen is even on fire, just fire everywhere. It's a very, very fiery boss, but it's fun. I like this boss, this whole dungeon actually, while we're just chatting, you and I like this dungeon a lot. It's very fun. It's pretty snappy, like it feels pretty quick. It seems kind of short, but it's short, satisfying. It's just like a nice little adventure you go on. So this firewall is gone, and now we can go stop these dragons and primalists from taking all the dragon babies. We don't want that. That'd be a terrible thing. So we're going down this giant walkway. There's just going to be a few smaller packs of enemies. And I've been in a few groups in the normal version where it can get a little overwhelming if you pull everything. So that shockwave I just did. While running the dungeon, I thought that I pulled all these enemies that are now fighting us, and things got a little sweaty. One of the other party members took credit for pulling them all. I assumed that it was me, and I think I said as much at one point. But watching back the footage now, they started running over before my shockwave, so I've been vindicated. Will I pull additional enemies later on in the dungeon? We'll see what parts of the footage I leave in to answer that question. So here we are at the final boss. We've got this guy who is going to do a bunch of stuff, and then we have a dragon that's going to be shooting fire. There's a giant fire beam. You probably don't want to stand in that, and there's going to be all sorts of stuff going on. Pretty fun boss fight. There's a lot happening. So I was saying before about how I keep the camera pretty close to my character, and I would argue that in most situations that's fine, even in dungeons. But as I'm trying to avoid all of this fire and find some place that I can start using my spells from, I may have accidentally backed into these wind creatures that are now attacking our party while this thing is doing so much in my defense, so much AoE, and I'm trying to find somewhere where I can just cast my little spells from. I may do that again right here. The truth is, who can say what aggroed all those wind creatures that killed me, and then subsequently the tank, and then subsequently the rest of the, oh no, I'm sorry, the tank was alive for a little while, but it killed the rest of the party. So was I directly responsible for that wipe? I'm not a scientist. I can't demystify all the secrets of the universe. But there is an interpretation of events where it does indeed seem like I wasn't being careful and I didn't realize that there were a bunch of enemies on the platform that we didn't need to fight, so we didn't, and then pulled literally all of them into the fight. That being said, I still defend my camera distance. Sometimes I will go further back than this. It's kind of like whatever the vibe is at the time. Here I seem to be admitting fault, but that's again, it's kind of, it's never gonna be solved. Benoit Blanc, can't come in here and tell us all who pulled all those enemies. It's gonna be a mystery forever. So now we are running back to the boss. We're gonna give it another shot. So this time, we're not getting hit by fire. We're not pulling any wind creatures. I think they're all gone. I don't know if they all died or what happened, but I don't pull them this time, if indeed that was what happened. And even though there is a ton of fire, this X pack is really hard for casters. I've been seeing that sentiment a lot, and it's definitely true. It is a little difficult as a caster. There's a lot of movement mechanics, but that just means that you have to be strategic with how you use your cooldowns, how you use your spells. So even though it can be kind of stressful and it feels sometimes like you're not doing anything because you're just running around trying not to get hit by stuff, it does feel like it rewards good play. And here, we killed the boss, no problem. Everyone is at full health at the end of the fight, meaning no one got hit by anything, especially me if you ignore the health bar. And I almost, so you can see the little light over there, that's where you have to go like loot the boss, but the dragon's kind of blocking him, and when it showed everyone looting their stuff, I for whatever reason I just assumed it like dropped loot into our inventories like it does in like Final Fantasy XIV. That's not what happened here, and I very nearly left without getting any loot. I didn't get that much. Apparently it would have been mailed to me anyway, but that is just a funny little thing that happened. But yeah, that was my first Mythic Dungeon. It was only a Mythic 0, but I had a lot of fun. I definitely want to do more of these. I would be down to do some of the harder ones. I like this kind of content for difficulty more than just like a single raid, like I said. So yeah, maybe we'll do more of these. If you enjoyed watching this for some reason, I couldn't tell you why that would be, but it might happen. Let me know. I'd love to do more dungeon videos. I don't know if I'll have much to say about each dungeon, but if something funny happens or I do terribly, that could be entertaining to watch. But yeah, thanks for checking this out. If you enjoyed the video, throw on a like. If you want to subscribe, who knows when I'll make another video, but it could be sometime soon. Who knows? Yeah, thanks, and hope you're doing well. Hope you have a nice holiday, and see you soon. Bye.